Welcome to Making IT Work, Deep Creek Center's blog for IT professionals committed to using best practices to provide exceptional value for their business clients.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Today I wanted to talk about something a little bit different that I think covers a broad array of the different best practice frameworks that I've worked on and that my teammates work on here at Deep Creek. And it speaks to a broad idea that we refer to as the Agile Mindset. So when you consider any kind of situation that you might find yourself in, you find yourself looking for and hoping for directions. That there might be somebody who's been through that path before, who can provide you clear instructions, go straight here for 2 blocks, turn right, follow a block down just before you get to the river, make a left-hand turn, and you'll arrive at your destination. Very seldom in the real world, unfortunately, do we end up with something that's quite as clear and straightforward as all that. Not the least of which might be the directions that we had planned to take in the event that there's traffic or an accident that may require us to take some different approach. In many ways, we may find ourselves being bounced around on a very busy river trying to find our way as we work our way through a project, through the implementation of a set of practice capabilities, or through establishment or vetting of certain types of security controls, for example. And so one of the things we need to become comfortable with is the idea that we simply don't know all the things that we would like to know. And so once you can embrace that uncertainty, it gives you a little bit of freedom to do the best we can to try to understand what we're up against, and then to be able to course correct appropriately as we work our way down the river and we have a better understanding of what it is that we need to try to accomplish together. So when people talk about agility, they have a tendency to focus on certain types of consistent practices that they see organizations using, especially in things like software development. Particular ceremonies or meetings like stand-up meetings, the use of backlogs to be able to track and manage work, and by and large a focus on activity, things that we are doing as we are working our way through things. The Agile Manifesto, as it was originally intended, though, speaks to something much larger. Basically an approach to understanding the world and how our values and ultimately our core principles should help inform us in dealing with the rivers that we find ourselves on from time to time. So if you think back to how the Agile Manifesto was written, it describes a set of value statements that we value certain things more highly than other things. That doesn't mean we don't value the other things, but it means that we value the first things more. That, for example, it's more important to empower my individuals and to facilitate effective interactions over having a defined set of processes and tools. Doesn't mean we won't have processes and tools or that we shouldn't use them, but we should use them specifically in the context of helping our individuals and helping facilitate effective interactions among them. We want to focus on things like working solutions, as opposed to focusing on progress in various other types of forms, or on focusing on artifacts or documentation in lieu of making good progress toward our solutions. Notice it doesn't say we don't value documentation, but there is very much such a thing as Goldilocks. How much is enough documentation to meet our needs? Likewise, we might focus on collaboration with customers. Not that we won't have contracts, but that we can't specify in some particular statement of work exactly what it is that our customers will ultimately want from us and that we should ultimately contract to deliver to them. Thought of a different way, if you specify for me something 12 months ago that defines your core requirements at that time, and in 12 months I actually deliver you what that says, you're probably not going to like me very much, because I'm not going to be solving your problems now. I'm going to be solving the problems you thought you had a year ago. And ultimately, a lot of things happen in a year, as we all know intimately well now. And with that, our need to adapt is very fundamental. And then last piece of the value proposition, of course, is being responsive to the needs for change as we get smarter is more important than rigorously fixing to a plan. Doesn't mean we're not going to do a whole lot of planning, but we'll plan in short windows where we actually have a fighting chance to estimate successfully and where our plans can provide us early feedback that allows us to adapt in ways that helps us better serve our customer. So when you think about agility overall, don't think of meetings. Don't think of certain agile practices. There are an unlimited supply of those. And quite frankly, I don't really care that much which ones you use, as long as you're approaching the problem from this larger idea of an agile mindset. So what does that actually mean? When we use phrases like the agile mindset, what are we actually saying? First and foremost, we're always doing the best we can. Right? And that doesn't change. When you begin a project or some type of effort to establish a practice or to consider tool alternatives or to consider hiring personnel or reskilling people, whatever the nature of the work, we're going to begin by trying to assess our needs and trying to figure out how best to solve the problem given what we know. Now, one of the hard realities of life is that we're trying to make these decisions at the point in time when we know the absolute very least we will ever know again about whatever it is that we're working on. Because the minute we start exploring the problem, the minute we start exploring potential solutions to the problem, everybody gets smarter. And when we do, we suddenly discover that we want to change our minds about things. And all of a sudden, the plan that we made a week ago or a month ago was last month's plan that I now know better doesn't really do the most important things that we need to do to get the job done that we need to get done. And so what we're effectively doing when we establish an agile mindset is we're allowing for learning and we're allowing for ourselves to understand situations and solutions better as we work through them. Right? Traditionally, we've found that the 80-20 rule applies to virtually any endeavor. In other words, the first 20% or the highest value 20% of the work is going to deliver 80+% of the value. And I've actually seen numbers even higher than that, where ultimately, the top 20% of the value of a solution is delivering 90% plus of the solution's value. And so when we start, for example, as part of the Agile principles to say that we want to focus on early delivery of the highest value things, well, if I deliver the 20% highest value components, they may be able to extract 90% of the overall value of the solution right out of the gate. And oh, by the way, they're going to go identify a whole bunch of things that we haven't even thought about that are higher value than probably anything that we have left in the hopper that can go and jump the line appropriately so we can end up delivering much more value to the client than we had intended in the first place. Now, again, most people, when they think about agility, try to pigeonhole it to software development or even to IT. But ultimately, agility is a fundamental way of thinking about the world. Right? The Army War College rather famously created an acronym called VUCA: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And that's really, at the enterprise level, describes how organizations have to think about organizational strategic goals. that we simply don't know a whole lot, and there are an enormous number of moving parts, like say a coronavirus, that may have a very substantial impact on the ability of us to execute on plans successfully. And so one of the things I encourage you to take from this today, whether you are a security practitioner establishing a set of controls, whether you're a project manager trying to organize how and what kinds of work is most needed to be able to meet a project set of objectives, whether you are trying to improve your existing workflows, design better customer journeys, establish better value streams, regardless of the nature of the work that you do, acknowledge the truth that you simply don't know all the things that you're going to know, and that that's okay. Doesn't mean we're not doing our due diligence, doesn't mean we're not making our best efforts, but that we are expecting to learn as we work our way through things, and as we learn, we better understand what kinds of things we would want to change in order to deliver better results. Everybody stay safe out there. Look forward to talking to you next time. Take care, everyone.
Thank you for joining us today. Deep Creek Center provides consulting and training for businesses around the world. For more information, visit deepcreekcenter.com.